welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland review show. Those of you who follow my personal social media will know I've been a bit busy this weekend. So for myself and the boys on the call today, we're going to be coming at you with a Monday morning release and recording on a Sunday evening. So a little bit more relaxed after, well, let's just say it's a good job we are speaking 24 hours after yesterday's game, because I think emotions were definitely running high as Sunderland failed to beat 10-man Accrington Stanley, despite the benefit of an early second half opener. To run through the remains of the weekend is first and foremost Brad Sharp. Brad, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Good, Graham, thank you. Had 24 hours to digest, and I've actually put myself in a good mood today with my own football team, so they've cheered me up after watching Sigh yesterday.
I'm not going to lie, I think if we did the review yesterday, it would just be like a whole 40 minutes of me going, ah!
Yeah, you see me as well. Best please. I was just a couple of rows in front of you. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a great day, was it? And second of all, of course, you'll recognise the returning voice of Dave Lawrence. Dave, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you. Yeah, not bad at all.
Excellent. And those of you who listen to the preview shows, of course, you'll notice it's technically another returning guest. I think it's your sixth visit on, Tony, which obviously means we do like you. Accrington side, giving us the Accrington side, sorry, it's another semi-regular voice, Tony from across the pitch. Tony, how are you feeling? You all right?
I'm doing well, Graham. Thanks for having me on again, and looking forward to chatting with the other fellas about yesterday's match.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So I think to sum it up ever so slightly, as I did in the intro, Sunderland drew 1-1. That's now 3 games without a win, 2 draws within that. An Aidan O'Brien goal had given us a second half lead, but I think some comical defending late on pretty much meant that Accrington Stanley pulled a deserved goal back, if we're completely honest, despite the fact that Ross Sykes got a red card, 14 minutes from the end. Brad, I'll come to you first. We are 24 hours afterwards, so it's not exactly a reaction. It's definitely a review. But how are you feeling 24 hours after the game, Brad?
I'm still not entirely pleased with it, to be honest, Graham. Like you say, we've got ourselves in front just at good time to score just after half time. And then we talk about it a lot, and you hear them mentioning it when they have their interviews about the game management. And I just didn't think it was there, to be honest. I think every player piled forward for that corner when Accrington's broke. I think the deepest player was Sirkin. He was only 25 yards, 30 yards back. It just wasn't good enough. And credit to Stanley, like you said, probably is a deserved equaliser for me. I'm just not feeling great, to be honest. It was my son's first away game, not one that I really want him to remember, but good day out nonetheless. But yeah, the point's not good enough from where we are now. That's 2 points picked up out of a possible 9, and that's not where we should be. That's not really what we should be satisfied with. I know there's been a lot of shouting again on social media about Johnson. I've been very vocal about it again because we knew this was coming. The streaky Johnson. I know it's not a defeat, but I'll wait and let you lead on to the Johnson crack first, in case I get shot down.
We'll definitely come on to it. Dave, I'll come on to you as well. Obviously, we've kind of touched on the game. I think anyone who's listening to this surely knows how it kind of ended up being. As I said before, a deserved point, really frustrating, probably in the way that the goal came, and that's the most frustrating thing. But if we're honest, I don't think over the 90 we deserved to win the game. But Dave, how did you assess it?
Yeah, it's always, in any game, 1-0, it could come back and bite you on the arse, couldn't it? And it proved it. I guess the thing that's most frustrating is, excuse me, for as much as we've got a very young team, something I think we've all been vocal about wanting for a good few seasons, Lee Johnson's been around for long enough. He's surely got to teach them a bit of game management by now. It's not as if we're 3 games into the season, 4 games into the season. Do you know what I mean? We're a good proportion of the way through it. And, to concede a goal like that, it's embarrassing, really. But, hey, it's the reason that I sit there every week and say, what's the result like in the context of the season? And the simple fact of the matter is the Wickham game is now an absolutely shite point, especially when you were 80 seconds away from winning the game. To drop another 2 yesterday, yeah, it absolutely kills us, really. So, yeah, it just frustrates me. Exactly like Brad just said, the whole Streaky Johnson thing. And listen, we seem to be a team where if we're high on confidence, we're absolutely buzzing, we're brilliant, we're phenomenal. And all of a sudden, when our confidence takes a hit, it affects us for like 5 to 8 games instead of just get out your system, get back on the training pitch, do whatever you've got to do, you know, do a Roy Keane and take the lads out paintballing or something if you've got to get over it, whatever that may be. But yeah, very, very frustrating. So, and I think that's probably a good way to sum it up. Frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, complete flip side for you, Tony. I think we've all said individually, and I think a lot of Sunderland fans would agree, it was a deserved point, which is probably the frustrating thing from a Sunderland side, because you spent the last 14 minutes with 10 men and we're 1-0 up. But how did you assess the game from an opposition perspective?
Well, I thought it was a good game, and I thought both teams were looking for the result. And I think a key point early in the match was Toby Savin's save on the header from Stewart. I mean, he did everything right. He headed the ball down to get away from the keeper, and it bounced back up. And Savin made really a save that I think gave the team a lot of confidence, and they went on from there. But yeah, that was. I mean, overall, you've got to be happy. I mean, we've never beaten Sunderland. We've drawn at your place and then got a point there yesterday. Obviously, we're pleased with the point. Disappointing we went down to 10 men again. I think the refereeing that we seem to come across sometimes. I mean, it was definitely a yellow on the second one for Sight, but I'm not sure the dissent one was at that early part of the match was worthy of a yellow. I mean, that's debatable, but that's just from my point of view. And then that puts you under the gun. And to be honest with you, when we got down to 10 men, we knew it was going to be hard. But credits to Toby Savin, because he's done this before where he'll spot the defenders high up on the pitch and he'll release the ball. And it got through to Butcher. And credit to Clark, who had been playing wing back and had been moved up with the subs. He kept on going in the open space. And there was a bit of lack of marking. They all went towards Butcher and left Clark basically unmanned. And you guys pay for it. And that's what we've been having that for quite a while, or that's a bad spell we went through where you seem to make a mistake and it cost us. And that's what happened yesterday. I thought you guys played well. The game management was be an issue. And I think that's something that down up with 5 minutes to go, corner in our end, you should be controlling the ball a little better than what happened. But happy with the point, and I think fair result.
Yeah, I agree.
And just to add on, Graham, I think we both hit that score in our predictions too, didn't we?
We did. I said that yesterday. I only got 3 right all last season. I'm in January and I've got 4 right. Unfortunately, they've all been like either defeats or draws. I think I've got right this year, which is a bit of a shame, but nonetheless, at least I'm getting something right, unlike some of our defenders. No offense, Tom Flanagan. I hope he's not listening, bless his heart. Brad, I'll come to you next. Obviously, we were able to welcome back the Hoff, the Aku and Bailey Wright. Yeah, our bench still looked fairly weak. It's definitely a question in hindsight, but there is a bit of debate around it, or whether we should have played these 3 games with the amount of COVID cases that we had based on what other sides were doing. There's some people saying, no, it was the right thing to do to play them. There's other people saying, well, it's great to have integrity in that, but points are what really matter. And they feel like the COVID cases and the fact that we've been a little bit stretched is probably what caused us problems these past 3 games. Where do you stand on it?
I don't think there's really a right answer on that one. I think the Wickham one, the Wickham one, I said it's the right thing to do to get it played. It was a good game of football. And it's been, you got to think, from that performance against the squad's been relatively the same. So we went from having a very good performance at Wickham, and then with the same group of players, we've hit this horrible dip. So I wouldn't. It's hard to say because obviously they've now played 3 in a week, and it has probably shown. Because yesterday there's only 1 sub, and that was a forced one at half time. If Pritchard had been fit, I don't even think Johnson would have made any changes. But if we have got these young lads on the bench and we are adamant in playing, especially when we recall the likes of Diamond and Hawks. Why not give them a run out as well? And maybe it's even justified playing the games. But we've used the same 11, 12, 13 players at max who've played 3 games in a week. Usually there's a bit of squad rotation. So if we in hindsight had looked at it and said, we're not going to have we're not going to give any of the other lads a run out. Yes, we should have probably called them off. But it's all hindsight, mate. We could have came away yesterday after managing that game and had 3 points and would have said, yeah, it's probably the best call. Lincoln was a bit of a blip. But now we need some players in the door and we need them quick and we need some players back from injury. It's a good thing we've actually got a week without a game now. Like Dave said, to get back on the training pitch, get things out of our system. But we need reinforcements. We can't just carry on with the same 12, 13. And then over the next couple of months, we'll welcome back like the likes of McGeady or Nye and Evans. I was a bit disappointed not to see Trey Hume. I mean, if he's not getting a game in this, when we actually depleted, let's say, what have we brought him in for? Just give him a run out, see what he's about. So I was a little bit disappointed not to see him. I know Johnson said that he needs time to bed in the philosophy, etc., etc. But there hasn't been much philosophy there in the last few games, has there? So I don't know what he needs to bed out. But yeah,
I think, and we'll go further on to this. And obviously, last week I was like, forgive me, Lee Johnson, for doubting you, and then. And he kind of proves right what I said about 5 weeks ago. So I don't know where I stand with Johnson. I want to attest that I think he's probably the best man for the job at the minute, but I'm desperate that and it changes something. But before, obviously, we're going to come on to that later because it is a source of debate. But one of the big things for me, you're talking about game management. You can't really equate for the individual errors that have gone on, like Gooch's missed kick on Tuesday night and Flanagan's lazy inverted commas clearance yesterday for the Accrington goal. But for me, the game was screaming out in the last 10 minutes for Jack Diamond or Josh Hawkson just to stretch Accrington. I mean, I don't know whether you agree here, Tony, but obviously from an Accrington perspective, the last thing you probably wanted to see the last 2 minutes were 2 young, really fast pacey lads to stretch the game and basically take it away from you. And yet they sat on the bench. But do you feel like something like that might have not put you out of sight, but maybe kept you at arm's length, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a tall back line, but they're not the fleetest of foot. But that's they like, but they are staying. They stay their shape well, as we mentioned, and I think yesterday, they did well against anything really coming in the box, and bringing that sub on the guy, the new signing they had, Jay Rish Bengaloo, I think his name is. He's 6'5", 6'6", and he's certainly got something about him too. So I think size-wise we're okay. It could be an issue if they bring on a speedy winger, but we counter that with our midfield and getting the ball to them and moving it forward. So it's I was surprised by the lack of subs from your end, and the fellow that did come on and score. It was like Brad mentioned, it was a perfect time to score, and really unfortunate for us because I think Savin had it lined up for a save and got a deflection off the heel of Nottingham and went in. But they all count, so you just gotta live with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I think and that's the one the fellow they brought on, Longello, and they brought him on and put him on the wing. He's only came on for 10 minutes, but he made a couple of moves in the box, and he has got some pace about him. So you can always counter with your pace if we bring on somebody that can do the same. And I thought the subs really had an impact on the last 10 minutes.
They definitely can, and I think that's the thing when you're looking for goals. Yes, it was a something mistake, but you're kind of having players rushing out to try and get to that ball and maybe, in a sense, forcing Flanagan into making a rush decision. But I think especially with Sunderland's perspective, when we're talking about COVID issues and bringing players back, and you've got two young boys who've been playing really well on loan in the division below for the last 10 minutes, with all due respect, against a 10-man Accrington Stanley, bring on a bit of legs, maybe even let you come at us a little bit and then try and get those to bomb on and just hold the thing in the corner and just have game management. I just cannot understand when a lot of the players are going to be dead on their feet. But it's a long story, isn't it? Dave, I want to ask you the same sort of question, mate. Should we have called these games off in hindsight, or are we just kind of, I can't remember the phrase here, and I've really fucked it up. Clutching at straws, that's the one.
Yeah, I think we are probably just clutching at straws, unfortunately, aren't we? It's, Brad said it. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yeah, now that we're sat here and we've gotten absolutely sweet FA from the last couple of games, or minimal, should I say? We didn't get nothing but minimal. Then, yeah, in hindsight, yeah, we could have called them off. But still, I think that's exactly right. What you're saying, to not bring on a couple of young lads, especially when Jack Diamond had an all right game the week before.
Yeah, he played on Tuesday. It's not like he's going to be like burnt out. You know what I mean? You can bring him on for 10 minutes to stretch a team with 10 men. But I'm going to go on to Johnson, of course. And I know there'll be people listening to this who are very much pro Johnson. I repeat. I do not believe, and I know I did previously, I don't believe it would be the right decision to sack him. But when we win games, we get an awful lot of, where's the credit for Johnson? Where's the Johnson out brigade now? So when he makes fucking mistakes, which he has done by not managing the game, he's got to be open to criticism. It's not a case of Johnson in, Johnson out always. It's a case of assessing things. I got really angry there, didn't I? Check me out. But you have to be able to critique and praise in equal measure, and you have to be prepared to be wrong, like I've been in the past few weeks. At the minute, I'm right, because I don't think he's doing making the right decisions at the minute. But I think for me, you cannot complain about COVID decisions when you've got players on the bench that can make a difference. The players that were on the bench yesterday were not just to make up numbers. I know Jack Diamond and Hawks would otherwise be on loan at a League Two side and doing well and playing weekly for them and wouldn't be at Sunderland. But those two maybe not would have gone on and scored the second goal, but they would have just stretched the game a little bit. They would at least ask the question. And if he brings them to one that hasn't worked, then you go, maybe he's tried his best to change it.
I just wanted to sort of throw this out and ask and get everybody's sort of opinion on this. Is I know I saw quite a bit of the reaction online. You guys have a lot of people that contribute online. Such a big club, and the response was really very negative after the match. And I wondered, would it be the same result response if that had been a draw against a 10-man Rotherham or Sheffield Wednesday? Is it because it's an Accrington Stanley that makes it more hard to accept?
I think to an extent, Tony, you do have a point, and I wouldn't necessarily pigeonhole Accrington Stanley. I'd maybe go anyone 8 downwards, and I think it comes from the third or the fourth season that we're in this league, that we come up short against teams that realistically, teams like in the past, Luton, Barnsley, teams that you can look at all the way back to our first season here, have put away relatively comfortably without too many issues. And we seem to have a struggle against Accrington Stanley with 10 men, Shrewsbury this season with 10 men. I think Rotherham, Burton, exactly. I think we looked at the Wickham game last week, and I think a lot of people said it was a good point, and Ipswich was a good point. It's always how you back up the results, I guess. And we spoke about Wickham, and I think, Dave, you said it was a good point if we beat Lincoln and if we then beat Accrington Stanley. Now that we haven't, it's probably a combination of a few different things. I think with all due respect to Accrington and every other team, we just know that if we need to get up, we need to win the games against the teams 8th downwards, and at least not drop points against 10 men, I think, Tony. But I think to be fair, and I can only speak from my viewpoint, I've always thought Accrington Stanley are one of those sides that are not a banana skin, but if you get 3 points home and away, then you've done pretty well, because they're well organised at the very least, and physical. That's the thing, Tony. I think there were a team yesterday that in the first half were physically more competitive than us, and we've seen that quite a lot this season, and I bet you felt that as well, that you physically had the advantage on us.
Oh yeah, we're a solid team, and there's no doubt they don't shy away, and they don't disrespect an opponent, but they don't fear an opponent, and I think that's just because of the nature of the fact that Accrington is labeled as a small club. But I think there's a lot of people, still haven't got. I'll say the word respect, but still look at Stanley as it should be 3 points when you play them. And I think more teams are realizing, and more fans are realizing, that we're an established League One team now, and we deserve to be where we are on the pitch. And are we, as we talked about before? I don't think we're overachieving. I just think we're getting more exposure now.
No, I do think you certainly. I think I've said on the preview shows. I think there or thereabouts. With a bigger squad, more resources, potential to get in the playoffs, and I sort of spoke about you maybe going the next step. But I think yesterday's frustration comes from the fact that it's just bloody Sunderland, Tony. That's the thing, in the nicest way. Brad, obviously, I haven't spoke to you in a little bit. I will come on to you about something. Look, we're big fans of Tom Flanagan. I like him, nice lad, lovely curly hair. Generally had a very good season, I think, and then. The past week, everything that we've dreaded from Tom Flanagan's kind of came to pass. Callum Doyle had a bit of a wobble a few weeks ago. I think Serkins looked a little bit defensively suspect. And then at right back, Bailey Wright, I think, has actually had a good few months. But I think ultimately, Tom Flanagan's mistake yesterday was lazy at best. We've shipped 33 goals this season. I think that's the 12th worst, 12th best. It's bang in the middle. Yes, we've scored 52, which I believe is the best. But it's kind of proved to me that the defence isn't really working. Rotherham have conceded 18 goals. They've played 2 games less, fair enough, but that's considerably less than 33. I can't see them shipping double figures in those 2 games. The defence really isn't helping us get results at the moment, Brad, basically. How does Lee Johnson remedy that?
Reinforcements.
I was hoping you'd say that because it brings me on to the next question. Lovely, but carry on.
The main reason is usually if a player does have a different form, you take them out the side and let them just have a breather. But at the minute, it seemed like last week, Flanagan had an old type Flanagan game against Wickham. He was very erratic. I keep saying Wigan. I mean Wickham.
I did it last week. I can't stop saying it. I don't know where it is.
They're in our heads, man.
Yeah.
It just seems like he had that dip, and then on Tuesday night he's went to clear and it went under him, and it was just a catalogue of errors when Winchester's went and Foul Maguire got sent off. And then I don't know what he's done today. It's like he's got a hole in his boot. As a friend of mine has said, it looks like he's got a hole in his boot, and it's just like we need to be able to have the depth. I mean, I know we've got Shamajli there, and Younger, when he has had a go, he hasn't done too bad. It's at the point now, if he's not going to trust these lads to come in, we need another centre half, and we did mention that last week, to take someone out of the firing line when they are having a bit of a dip. Because like we said, start of the season, until recently, Flanagan was in the top 3-4 players this season, consistent, and we were raving about him, and it was great. But I don't want it to go at the stage where he keeps this form without having a break, and then people say, "Oh well, it was Tom Flanagan. It's typical Flanagan. It's what we're going to expect," and then it just sort of all the good work he's done this season's forgotten about. So I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to happen straight away, but I would like to see a centre half coming if he's not going to change it. But like I touched on earlier, Trey Humes there to put the right back and put Bailey Wright at centre half if he's going to persist with the 4. And give Flanagan a break. I mean, I think Doyle's played nearly every minute this season as well. If he needs to come out the side, we need something there where we can give these lads a rest instead of it going too far, and then everything that's went well this season is forgotten about because it's the here and now, and everyone. I can't even remember the Accrington game at home, but I can remember yesterday's, and I know we beat Accrington at home, but I couldn't tell you who the standout players were, and how football is. Football fans are very fickle, me being one of them. You forget the good things when the bad things are in the present, like in the here and now. And the only way to get around that is either fucking change the players and the personnel, change the system, or fucking I don't know. I don't know the third one.
Let's just win more games.
Let's
just do wins. Just stop being Sunderland. Dave, we spoke about it last week a little bit. And we touched on who do we need to bring in, who do we sign, and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, we'd all like to bring in Mbappe in, or Chris Wood, as he's now known. But there's a link of Eden Flint. How much difference do you think a championship pedigree brute of a centre-half, he's 6'5", he's played under Johnson, there's a link there. He's at Cardiff. I'm not sure how much he's playing at Cardiff, I'm completely honest. I know he was worth 6 million or so not that long ago, because I remember David Moyes being linked to him when we were in the Premier League. Obviously, it didn't work out from a Borough. He's gone to Cardiff. It's obviously not doing too well for him, but the Championship and the League One gap is getting bigger, if I'm honest. I think someone 6'5" Eden Flint sounds pretty good to me, but how much of a difference do you think that would make if we had just a brute at the back?
I think it's got to help. I definitely think it's something we need, but whether it's someone who's, like you say, I don't mean to be disrespectful because I have no idea what his stats and stuff are at Cardiff and how much he's playing and stuff like that, which I'm blatantly going to find out while we're chatting. But basically, it's one of them, isn't it? It's a deteriorating player, dare I say it. Now, don't get me wrong. I did say we could do with someone like kind of experienced, which is absolutely
32, isn't he? He's 32.
Mate, he's played quite a lot of football, to be honest.
23 games, 4 goals.
Yeah. So, I mean...
All right, I'm signed up. I'll have him. Yep, no bother. Yep, happy with that. Wikipedia sold me on him.
So he's definitely going to be match fit, which is definitely something in his favour. That's got to be a good thing. Yeah, I definitely think we need a core group of players who will, one, stay fit, and secondly, like, take charge of certain situations. I think one thing we've got to be careful of, and there's 2 reasons, I suppose, for the massive inconsistency that we have, where what were we, a fortnight ago, turning over Sheffield Wednesday 5-0? How is that physically possible? But I suppose you've got to remember, we have a mix of players who are at the age of either getting to their peak, or if they're not at their peak, going beyond their peak, and also a group of players who are young, hungry, and eager to impress. And unfortunately, both kind of don't really give you the consistency that some might say that you need to win a championship. So the likes of Dan Neil, would Dan Neil at the minute actually come on for about a 3-game rest? There's potential that he would. Now, obviously, we don't have that luxury because of however many injuries and COVID cases and stuff like that. But there is just a slight risk of burning them out a little bit. Now, that's not to excuse them. But, you know, Brad also said you have to have players waiting in the wings. And it's a subconscious thing. I do see a lot of reaction when we don't win about how people don't care about the shirt and stuff like that. But there is also going to be a risk of kind of switching off a little bit if you've got no one to replace you. Yeah, massively. Because Flanagan has made 3 clangers in the last 3 games, which, okay, one resulted in a red card and a goal. The one at Wickham he got away with. And then, so him, Lyndon Gooch, there's no real pressure on him. And unfortunately, he's unfortunately become a little bit woeful, if I'm honest. Yeah, I think it definitely needs mixing up. It looks like, as we're recording, it looks like Patrick Roberts is going to be done in the next couple of days. I think that's quite an exciting sign. And even though he hasn't really featured much in France, the fact that his contract's out at the end of the season means he should be playing for something, you know, especially if he can get promoted with Sunderland. He's got a chance of potentially playing in front of 30,000 fans in the Championship next year if he wants a deal and if we want a deal.
He is a good player. I mean, obviously, I've been everyone knows my allegiances up in Scotland, but obviously I've watched Patrick Roberts the whole time during Celtic, and if he recaptures his form there, you've got an absolute gem and a potential McGeady replacement moving forward in the years to come. But I think the big thing with Eden, someone like Eden Flint, teams like Wickham, someone like Eden Flint, commas, that kind of thing. I think we do lack experienced players that can guide the young players through. I think Dan Neil's been well off the boil. I think Callum Doyle did the same. I can completely forgive that. It's a given and it's expected. If they don't have bad games, they're never going to learn, and that's kind of fine by me. I understand that, but it's the experienced players that are letting those ones down at the minute, and probably have done in the past. And unfortunately, Flanagan's letting young Callum Doyle down at the minute by making stupid mistakes and letting down Circum down and stuff like that. But I just think someone like an Eden Flint, championship pedigree most of his career, at a good age. I think he's had captain's experience, I believe, in the past with Bristol City. So a lot of experience there, and I think that's one thing we miss. However, one thing I did want to throw a little bit, one player I was really impressed with, and I know it's going to be quite surprising because he got sent off, but Ross Sykes, every time I've watched him, I think he did quite a good job on Ross Stewart yesterday. He's bigger than Ross Stewart. He's massive. I wouldn't mind seeing us look at him as another project, maybe as two more centre-halves. But Tony, are you surprised the likes of Ross Sykes haven't been looked at before? Because I've just started being more impressed by him. And again, I was yesterday, despite the fact he got sent off. I mean,
he's really improved from last year. He improves year to year, but he's cut out his mistakes that he was making when we had that bad run. And I think that's a lot to every team goes through bad runs in this league, and it's just good teams come out of them quicker than others. It seems to be your turn now where you're having a bit of a bad spell. I think Ross Sykes is a player that can go to and play at a higher level. As of last week, nobody had put an offer in for him, but I think there are people watching him, but for the right price, he'd be sold. But again, like I mentioned before, we don't have to sell just because a team comes along with and makes an offer. If he's sold, he'll be sold for a market value, and that could be 7-figure, 2 million or plus. I would put him at a valuation of, which I think was probably well within your guys' budget if that was the case. But I'm happy that he's at Stanley, and I think hopefully he'll stay for quite a while. But John Coleman has always said that if he will never stand in a player going ahead and moving up in his career, and if a big team comes in with the right money, they'd take a look at it.
I think he's been really impressive. I would rather experience, but I think if we're looking at projects and people who can build towards the future, I do think he's a player that could make the step up at least one division, and I think people at the match yesterday might have agreed. We're going to pop in a quick break. We've got used to doing this. I'll get some interlude music, elevator music, whatever it may be. I might just put a bit of thrash metal on just to keep us entertained. And we'll be back in about 30 seconds. Welcome back to the second part. We're getting used to these break things. I think we're just quite enjoying talking more shite than 40 minutes allows us. So, but forgive us the indulgence. Brad, we discussed signings sort of in the first part. Dave sort of touched on it before. I think Patrick Roberts is basically done. Although I wouldn't believe anything Dave said. He said we'd beat Lincoln 4-1, and he was wrong with that. And I told him that was going to be the case, but we do need reinforcements, Brad, and I think Patrick Roberts is of good quality. As I touched on before, he had a good time at Celtic. He's not exactly had the best time since, but I don't think he's been a disaster anyway. I don't see anyone saying he's horrendous. He just hasn't found a settled home. He's got 6 months here to get a settled home, and he's very much in the McGeady mould, I think. And Aidan McGeady's going to be 37, 38 this time next year. I think League One or Championship, you've got to be looking to replace someone who's that age. We're talking of people who are 38, 39 years old, Brad. There's a little man by the name of Jermaine Defoe. Not you, don't worry. The face you gave me there was tremendous. It's a shame it's an audio podcast because that would have been quite good. Jermaine Defoe's been linked. He's obviously left Rangers this week. I've seen a real range of opinions on it. I would say the bulk of people seem to be on board with Jermaine Defoe being a potential signing for Sunderland. There is a lot of people who say he's 39 doesn't really fit the premise of what we're signing at the moment of young and hungry. Straightforward question, Brad. Jermaine Defoe, if he's available, is it a no-brainer or is it a stay away?
100,000% yes.
Yeah, me too.
Like you say, he's probably got 6 months left in him.
Honestly, I think he completely. He's 49. He's in the
He
stadium.
could.
He's tremendous.
He really could. He keeps himself in good condition. You've seen him. Me and you follow Rangers a lot, and we followed a lot of them. Obviously, last season, he probably put in one of the best performances of the season last year against Celtic in the Old Firm. If you watch a lot of his goals, yes, he used to have a bit of pace, but a lot of it's just one or two touch, and he knows where the goal is. And I can guarantee you now, if he came to us, and like I say, we could be dreaming, but if he came to us, he would get 15 to 20 goals easily, because he is just a natural goal scorer. And if it is a short-term deal, offer him a coaching role. After he always said he would love to come back to Sunderland in some capacity, why not end your career here, get us promoted, and put him on the coaching team? And it's not so much of breaking the mold of signing these young, hungry players. Jermaine Defoe could be one of them players that, yes, he's old, but he will bring on the young lads. He can teach them so much in that 6 months. And like I said, I've touched on it as well. Me and you watch Rangers. What he does off the field as well as on the field, it's an absolute no-brainer to get Jermaine Defoe in if he is available. And I mean, if you looked at Victor Anichebe's Instagram story, seems like if we sign Defoe, we're going to get Anichebe for free. He's willing to come for free. Just bring him in.
I'll be all right without Victor. No offense. I'll be fine without him. I think he might be knackered, but on Defoe, and everyone's going to have their own opinions on this. But for me, Jermaine Defoe, he's 39 on paper. I think he still plays like he's a 33, 34-year-old. He's fit as a fiddle. At this level, even if he just gets you 5 goals, Brad, he could be the difference between going up and not. And whilst the long-term aims at have a young, hungry squad that he can build players around and have a lot of longevity that can eventually get us back to where we want to be, which seems like a long way away, but that's the plan. The short-term plan is to get up, and Jermaine Defoe could be the difference between it. I'm telling you right now, yesterday when Accrington score at that point, sort of 6 minutes from the end, I feel a lot more confident if you're bringing on Jermaine Defoe. Jermaine Defoe's on the pitch for the last 5 minutes that we can nullify that and put another goal past 10 men. If he gets 5 goals, that's all that matters. I don't think he'll actually command those bigger wages. I really don't. I think if he's coming anyway, he's coming somewhere for a project that's going to benefit him. Can he nurture the players? I mean, you look at the amount of Rangers players, young boys that are like Dapo Mudabi, who's at the moment, I think he's at Oxford. He's like, or Wimbledon, sorry. He's speaking about, what he did to help him. There's senior pros saying, what a professional he is, what he's brought to the dressing room. I think we're missing someone that has got a lot of experience. But if we can bring in one that'll get 5 to potentially 10 goals, might potentially be a really good coach in the future. And I know people say, oh, well, what coaching experience he's had. Look, if he's good enough to be given a coaching role at Rangers, he's good enough to be given a coaching role at Sunderland. I think it's a total no-brainer. I don't know if I'm dreaming, but there's little bits and pieces for me that are like, I think he might fancy it, and I think Lee Johnson might fancy it as well. But because it seems beyond the realms of possibility, they're both talking in riddles a little bit. And maybe I'm just like reading into different things and hoping. But I think for me, the likes of Jermaine Defoe and an experienced centre-half, maybe mixed with another young up-and-coming centre-half from a League One team, such as Ross Sykes, someone like that, those three, I think that could be such a massive difference. But goals win you games at the end of the day. And Dave, I think that's what Jermaine Defoe offers. But how are you feeling about JD? Maybe you want to come at a different angle and you think, no, actually in the past, let's move on.
Unfortunately for you and your media mind, you want me to come at it at a different angle. That's not going to happen. So, unfortunately, I've just ruined it. But
oh, man, give us balance, for God's sake.
There's no balance here. Just get him back. I don't drive, but I will illegally take my missus's car and drive him there myself.
I'll drive him down from Glasgow if he wants, which would be far easier than you driving all the way up to Glasgow, then driving back down. But
I'll meet you at Carlisle and we'll do the swap over there.
yes,
up for it.
It'll be COVID safe, Jermaine. Don't worry.
I guess it's exactly like you say. Big game players, and he's played in some big games. Let's be honest, over his career, win you games, tight games, and not only are you talking about 5 to 7 goals, I have no doubt, because of how his legs and stuff are, that you're probably talking last 15, 20 minutes of a game, they'd be winning goals. They'd be winning contributions to the game. And we could do that. Let's be honest. Am I bringing Aidan O'Brien off the bench, or am I bringing Jermaine Defoe off the bench? It's a very, very simple answer. And I was trying to remain really balanced on it until I had a look on Twitter before we came and started recording. And I do believe there's a mass on Twitter had made some kind of, I don't know whether it was a private message or something like that, but she'd sent Defoe an Instagram saying, please come home. And he just sent, and literally she screenshotted and put it public, to be fair. He literally sent a love heart back. Well, I'm sorry. I'm reading into it. It's done. It's signed and sealed.
Why did she approach him like a divorced middle-aged man? Please, Brenda, come home.
Mate, to be honest, that's how I feel. I will gladly be called Brenda if he comes home.
Brenda, come home, please.
If I woke up and it was announced, I would be very emotional. I would cry.
Me too.
Mate, I'd start a GoFundMe to get the cryo chamber out of retirement.
It's been taken by Martin Bain, mate. Sorry.
But like we say, Graham, me and you have followed him very close for the last couple of years. And I said when he went to Rangers, if Sunderland can't have him, I'm over the moon Rangers can. Now, he probably, I know we said he's got the body that could go for a few years. Realistically, he's got this season. He could play at least 40 next season. Realistically, it's this season. And is any championship clubs going to go for him? No. So it's League One really for me, and there's no better story.
There's no better.
It's not even the better club. There's no better story for him. I know that tit on Talksport. What's he called? The fucking Jordan, Simon Jordan.
Oh well. There's many that you mentioned on Talksport.
He'll go to Charlton. He'll go to the rivals. He'll go to Charlton. Well, why Charlton? But yeah, I'm gonna put it out there now. We won't, even if we're in the playoffs, we won't meet Charlton in the playoffs. And I don't think Charlton are going to do anything this season. I think that's just finishing the career on a whimper. He knows the fans here love him, and he loves the club. I know the last season he went down, but he just remains so professional. And we've watched him for the last couple of seasons at Rangers. It's been a joy to watch him there. Just come home, Jermaine, and let's just finish on a high.
Yes, just listen to the podcast, Jermaine. Listen to your heart, not your head, and just come
We'll
home.
have to ask this last if she'll forward the podcast on Dave to Jermaine. Box the link, and then
if we just keep tweeting him like depressed, divorced, middle-aged men, maybe he'll come back. Just come home, Jermaine. Just come home. Tony, I wanted to fling a totally different question at you, and the reason I like having opposition fans on after this is a view of the game, a view of your team, how you viewed it in comparison. But I think sometimes the most interesting aspect of it is maybe when Sunderland don't win games and we're unhappy with how Sunderland performed, how the away team or the opposition team, perceive Sunderland as a team and what we're missing. There's no doubt about it that we're still within the promotion race. We're second off top. We're so used to failure. I think when we draw a game or lose a game or go on a run, we think, oh, here we go. Obviously, we're not that far away, but we're missing something, Tony. Based on yesterday's game and what you've seen of Sunderland in that game, what do you feel like Sunderland might be missing or could need more of to ensure that we achieve our aim of going up automatically?
And just a quick one, Tony, before you answer this, the correct answer is Jermaine Defoe.
Please just say Jermaine Defoe now, Tony. That'll work a treat.
Well, I heard he was wondering whether Stanley had room for him or not. So But if he wants to take a page cut, then we'll welcome him at Stanley for a season. I think you get him for a 6 months or an 18-month contract is going to help you guys out. I think you just need some a lift from something like that because you've got the players and you've got one of the best strikers in the league, and you're just going through that rough spell, so you need something to lift the spirits mentally of the players and the fans, and it's obvious from talking with you guys that your feeling is Defoe would be the right move, and sometimes it's just a little thing that can change the season, whether it's on or off the pitch or both, and in the dressing room, and he could be the reason. But I don't think you guys are that far off, to be honest with you. I think you just got to come out of this, just work hard on the training ground and just get that mental attitude back, and that positive attitude, and because you're not far off, really. I think Defoe might be the Kickstarter for you.
I honestly think I don't think we're missing experience. I think we're missing good experienced players, if that makes sense. Players who've maybe played at a higher level and done it. And I think not only would it like tug on my heartstrings for JD to come back and he would score goals, I think maybe you could see yesterday, Tony, maybe we're missing someone, like I said before with Aidan Flint, someone that would make sure that ball doesn't get through to Butcher yesterday and just clears it or just blocks off the goalkeeper as he's trying to make that long kick downfield. We seem to be missing that.
Yeah, I think there seemed to be a lack of leadership sort of on the pitch at the time in the second half. And if you have a guy like Defoe come in, and whether you would give him the captaincy or not, but I would certainly look at him being a coach on the pitch, and I think he would go a long way to controlling the management of the game and the time and thing like that. I don't think a mistake like you guys made in the 84th minute would have come to pass with a guy like Defoe on, because he would have made sure the positioning was right. So it's not only what he does with the ball, it's what he does off the ball if he's on the pitch. And I think that could be something that would make a difference.
I'd give him freedom of the city, if I'm completely honest with you, but that's another matter entirely, I think. We always end on the same question. So, Brad, I'll go with you first. What does the result mean in the context of Sunderland's season?
Well, you asked me this one last week after the draw, and I said it's a good point if we go ahead and beat Lincoln. So ask me again in a week.
And I have, believe it or not.
So I haven't had time to think about an answer to this one, but I'm going to give one, and it's going to be a bit of a different flavour. It's worrying. A week ago, we were saying a point was okay, providing we go on and win. Since then, we've picked up one more point, and it is worrying that the performances have dipped over the last two. We're taking Accrington into isolation. No disrespect to them, like you said earlier, teams 8th and below, we need to be beaten. And when you're
10 men,
when you're 1-0 up, they've got 10 men.
Mm-hmm.
You don't concede. If anything, you go and put them to bed and finish at 2-0. So it is quite worrying. And what I've took from that one as well as worrying is Johnson does not trust any of them players that are on the bench. So we're stuck with what we've got until these reinforcements come in or people are coming back from injury. And I think there's only Corey Evans coming back in the short term. So, I mean, in the context of the season, I mean, time will tell. Wigan have got 32 games in hand. Rotherham have got a couple of games in hand. So I know you have to go and beat them, and you have to go and win them games in hand. But from a Sunderland point of view, we need to turn this around very quick and make sure that when Wigan and Rotherham are playing these games in hand, they have got pressure on them. Because at the minute, they know they've got a free hit of losing two. Well, Rotherham can afford to lose one. Wigan know they can afford to lose two of them, I think, or three of them, and pick up a point. So I think it drops off a bit of pressure on them. So we need to turn this around, and we need to turn it around very quick and get these performances out of our system. Because if we don't, Portsmouth ain't an easy game, and that's next week. And that could easily turn into 4 games without a win. And then you start and think, is this the streak coming back? Even if it is a draw, it's not good enough now. We need to go and beat Portsmouth, then Bolton, and then I'm not too sure who we play after that.
I think it's Cheltenham. You win 4, don't you? And maybe you can afford to draw 1. It's when you draw 3, win 1, lose 1, draw 2. But nonetheless, that's a long conversation. Tony, from an Accrington perspective, what does the result yesterday mean in the context of Accrington season?
Well, it just reinforces the play that we've, the form that we've been in the last month, in very low scoring games, playing well defensively, staying in the match. I mean, this is the second match in a row we finished with 10 men and still come away with a point. So there's a lot of belief in the squad right now, a lot of confidence. And I think if we can get a striker in, maybe Jermaine Defoe, that could kick on our season and challenge for a playoff. No, seriously, if we get we need another striker to go along with Colby Bishop, somebody with a bit of pace to play off him. But I think, as I said before, if we can continue on, we got to turn some of these draws into wins. We got a tough match away at Ipswich, but we seem to play them well. We get up for the big teams. And if we can get a win there and get a striker in, hopefully we could push on and challenge if possible. That would be would be a really good end to the season if we could challenge for a playoff. It's going to be tough, but that would be the ceiling if we could get to it.
Dave, you're Jerry Springer this week, so you get the final word. I wonder if Jerry Springer's up too, actually. But what would be your thoughts on what the result means in the context of our season?
Fortunately, it's a pessimistic one for me, because the simple fact is, even if we do go and beat Portsmouth, that's 5 points from 12, and unfortunately, that is not promotion/championship winning form. So, yeah, a little bit negative from me, unfortunately. We all know that in the context of things, if you then go beat Portsmouth and you win the next 3, all of a sudden the last 5 form game, it becomes better reading. But yeah, I just worry that our streaks, our winning streaks, they don't amount to making a statement, and they haven't done in previous years. So there's every chance that this year could be different, and I hope that's true. But just thinking back to that first season of Luton, like kind of going and winning 11 games in a row, 8 games in a row, it's something we've never really achieved. And it's something, hey, listen, if people think like I think, which hopefully they don't, because it's probably a warped place in my mind, unfortunately. But, someone like Lee Johnson, surely it must irk him as a professional myself in what I do, to sit there and hear people calling me Streaky Lee through negativity. I'd want to correct it some way, shape or other. So I'm sure it's just as frustrating for him. But I guess that'd kind of sum up what I think he needs to do. He needs to find a steely determination from somewhere. He needs to get a bit more of a nastiness going at time. We know we can play with the swagger when we've got the confidence and we look good and we turn it on and we do really well. Look at Chef Wed. They couldn't cope with us. And in my head, there's a belief that we could go and do that to Portsmouth at home next week. Mm-hmm. There is that genuine belief.
Capable of it, mate, and well, that's the thing. And it's not the good streaks are really good. I said the word streak. I don't want to try and avoid it, but it's hard. But the truth is, and I'm a few percentage off, but we've lost our streaks. Have meant that we've lost close to a quarter of our games this season, which is fine if you want to get in and around the playoffs, but that's not what we want.
Definitely,
we really want the top 2 when we cannot afford to have these little blips that go for like 2 or 3 games too long. We can afford to lose 1 now and again, not close to a quarter of games, and that's where he needs to remedy it. I'm desperate for him to succeed. I'm desperate for him to do it. I'm certainly not wanting him sacked. I know I did a few weeks ago, and I'm fickle as any football fan. I think he can get it right, but I seem to be consistently teetering on the brink of falling off that thought. recently.
Definitely. I totally agree. And I think ultimately, I'd like to think, and I think all of us sat here would think the same. Listen, I've no doubt that he's going to get to the end of the season, unless, of course, we go and lose the next 6 games, in which case he'd be in major trouble. But I don't see that happening. I think ultimately he's got to understand the remit. If he gets to the end of this season and we haven't been promoted, he's probably going to go. So he should know where he's at, and let's hope he finds that steel. And I think that's all that's missing. Just a little bit of wisdom. And like you've said, maybe he's an Aidan Flint coming in or someone like that would bring us that little bit of, what's the word? Just a little bit of streetness. Someone who's just got a little bit of nous about them, a little bit of cleverness.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Tony summed it up perfectly earlier. We're not far away. We're really not far away. And I think that's probably our biggest frustration, because you think if you're 1, 2, maybe 3 players away, or just some kind of momentum switch within the club happening from it going right. And as soon as it does, it'll take some stopping, but we do have to build up a head of steam. So in the context of it, yeah, what I'm going to say is I think the Portsmouth game, not only is the result important, I think the performance is important as well.
Yeah, I think it's important if these 3 games end up being one of the final streaks towards the end of the season, Sunderland get automatically promoted. And that's not unbelievable to think. We're in mid-January. There's no reason why we couldn't go on. And maybe, I'm not saying don't lose for 4 months. Love that. It's highly likely we will. It's highly likely we will get a frustrating draw. But ultimately, if you keep a length of games where we don't win a game at an absolute minimum at this point, we'll go automatic. Simple as that. You can lose 1 or 2, but win the majority of your games towards the end of the season in spades. Win 4, lose 1, win 4, draw 2, win 4, and so on and so forth. We'll go up. It's as simple as that, because that's just all we require is consistency. And I think the consistency will come from a bit more experience on the park, a new centre half that will not make the mistakes that some of the defenders are making, and someone by the name of Jermaine Defoe. I don't know if you noticed, I'd like him back. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully it hasn't been too much of a Jermaine Defoe love fest. Well, actually, you know what? Hopefully it has. Who cares? I know it's not been the most enjoyable of weekends in terms of football sense. It's been all right for me, if I'm honest. But thanks for joining us, Brad. Tony, thanks for joining us again. And Dave, thanks for joining us as well. I hope you have a good rest of the week.
Yeah, good luck for the rest of the season, fellas.
You too, Tony.
Yeah, you too. Congratulations.